Welcome to a how to play of StarCraft, the board game. StarCraft, the board game, comes with a very impressive manual, which is very illustrative, but also very long. So instead of going through the manual, I just want to show you how you could play the game. The basic gameplay of StarCraft is not that much different or more complex from a game like Game of Thrones, the board game. But the special rules mostly come into play into the combat phase, and all the peculiarities of having so many combat units are down to the cards which you get to play during this game as well. The special effects there of the cards are all written out and explain very well what they do, so there's no real need to learn them in advance. So we're going to go through the basic rules, the basic gameplay, and show you what components the game has, so you can basically get started with the game. Now, the game has as its objective to either reach 15 conquest points, which are tracked here on the conquest point tracker. Each player gets a color of their faction, and in a normal game, if you reach 15 conquest points in step 6 of the regrouping phase, then you actually win the game. However, every faction, and StarCraft comes with 6 different factions, comes with a special victory condition. So if this victory condition is attained during step 7 of the regrouping phase, then that player wins by their special victory condition. Special victory conditions tend to be about area control. So you need to hold like an entire planet, or lots of mineral areas with at least a number of units, and so forth. The only exception is the Eldaris faction, which moves everyone's conquest objective to 20, hence each of the tokens have plus 15, so you can move them up to 20 to reach your goal, except for the Eldaris faction, which already wins if it reaches 15 during the regrouping phase. Now, another way that the game could end is if in the event deck, 2 cards which say the end is near have been drawn, and then the end draw is near. If 2 of these kind of cards have been drawn, in that case you look at which player has the most points on their conquest track, except if the Eldaris faction is playing. If the Eldaris faction is playing, they win the game. So they have a slightly different way of winning the game. There's one other way of winning, and that's by eliminating all other players. So when you start to play, you actually pick a particular faction. So on the back you've got some flavor text explaining the background of the faction. Of course, you're playing as the 3 races of StarCraft, Terran, Zerg, and Protoss. And you have your startup units described on this side. And if you turn over, you'll have places for your technology deck, your permanent resources, which you always have available you for mining purposes, your special victory condition, your faction's icon, the faction that you're playing as, in this case Jim Raynor, the racial ability that you have, the workers that have become unavailable, that's if one of your mining sites has been destroyed, your worker pool, where workers return after collecting their minerals or Vespene gas, the places where you can build your buildings. So everyone is already equipped with a type 1 barracks or equivalent, and it specifies what kind of units you can build. So the most basic one, in this case for Terran, they can build a marine. It lists the cost, so 1 crystal, 0 Vespene gas. Gives you an indication of who they can fire against. In this case, they can shoot land-based units, and they can also attack air. So you can see that land, land, air, land, land, air, land, land, air, and land and air. The last row gives you a sense of what their supporting power is. We'll go into detail about supporting roles in combat during the combat explanation. I guess the final point to show you here is that there are 5 spots for expansions. These can be taken the form of supply depots, or air defense, or research and development. On the back of these tokens, you will see their cost. So a supply depot extends your building limit by 1. That should be 2, so by 2. And your default building limit is 2, and so as soon as you build a supply depot, now you can build 4 units at a time. So unlike StarCraft, the video game, there is no global unit limit. It's more about how many units you can build with a particular action. Now, the very costly air defense gives you the ability for all of your bases to attack air, rolling, well, you get +1 attack points. Again, we'll specify that in the combat section, and you get to detect cloaked units. The research and development is pretty cool because it allows you to play with more advanced versions of the order tokens, which we'll go into detail in a bit as well. So that's your player map. You also get a order reference sheet, which gives you a sense of all of the units that are available. So all the units are beautifully presented as miniatures, except for the workers, which are simple tokens that once you build them, you put them in your worker pool, and your supply ships, which you'll be placing on navigational connectors. So these stats are the average combat values. Okay, so you've got the average attack, the average health, and the number of technologies that can apply to this particular unit. So there's lots of cards that modify these powers, but on average this is what you'll be coming up against when you meet them. On the flip side, you see the 3 types of order tokens: mobilize, build, and research, and the special victory conditions of your opponents. We'll go into the order tokens in a bit, because that's kind of the meat of the game. So at the start of the game, you are issued with a number of, actually 2 planet tokens. So it doesn't matter how many players you play with, everyone gets randomly awarded with 2 planetary tokens. So this means that if you're only playing with 2 players, there's actually only 4 planets that you're playing with. So in a 6-player game, everyone gets 2 planetary tokens. So let's imagine that our player has the Pridewater and Bracken planets assigned to them. The way that the world is built up is that they get to take these planets. So in this case, well, let's just imagine that they got Dialer 4 and Chaucer. They get to place these 2 planets on the table. So the game starts with the first player. So the first player gets the first player token, and that player gets to decide which of these two planets they put down first. So let's say they put down Chaucer. Now, the first player then gets to decide if they want to put up their base, right? Their base consists of a base token that they can put on any one of these regions. Now, if you look at the iconography of the planet, you can see that it consists of 4 areas. It's got the planet name, it's got an order token area, and some icons telling you what's going on the planet. So you've got minerals that you can mine, Vespian gas that you can collect, and you've got the unit limits that you can have in this particular area. So only 3 units are allowed to be held here, only 2 there. 4 units can be held in this quarter of Chaucer. Okay. The special icon here is a conquest point icon. So if you hold on to this area with either a base or a unit for the entire round, you are awarded 1 conquest point, which again helps you advance along the conquest marker tracker. Okay, so the first player plays out the planet, and then they can decide whether or not they want to play it on this particular planet or the second one that they'll eventually play out. So let's imagine that they put out Chaucer and they do not place their base. It goes along the table in clockwise order, and the next player will have to decide how they will connect one of the planets that they've been assigned by using these kind of navigational connectors. So this player can decide any kind of orientation for the planet. So in this case, Helios can be decided to be connected in this particular manner. So this goes around the table until the last player has connected one of their 2 planets. That player goes again, and then in counterclockwise order, it goes back until the last planet is placed. Now, so each player will have to place their base in either the first time that they place a planet or the second time it comes back around.